everybody, and welcome to ESO Daily. I am your host, Mystic Raven. Alright, guys, I'm on the PTS today because, I wanted to kind of go over a couple different things today. I'm going to keep this as simple as possible for players wanting to learn it. I don't feel like you should have to break everything down into the nitty-gritty, because you can if you're that type of player, but majority of players just want the basics. They just want general information and try to understand it. So today kind of want to cover that. I want to go over diminishing returns. I want to go over the CP, especially how diminishing returns affects your CP system. And also I want to go ahead and go over acceptable losses. Now, when I say the phrase acceptable morning Mustang, when I say the phrase acceptable loss, it's not a phrase that we're too familiar with in MMOs, because most MMOs that have a diminishing return is uncontrollable, right? Because it has a linear progression. So it's locked. The only way we can, control our diminishing return is throughout rotation and understanding that. But in this game, we see acceptable loss for allocation and speccing. Morning, Robert. So if you've ever heard the phrase acceptable loss, it's usually in a movie referring to military, but acceptable loss is usually in losses or in business. Like when I sold insurance, we had acceptable losses due to payout, what was coming in premium and what the company was paying out for policy. That goes across the board with life, medical, so on, auto, so on and so forth. So those are acceptable losses because we're retaining. Same thing with your employment. Employment is, you're getting paid, right? Well, the company might not be making money off that one specific, like medical field. A patient comes in, it only yields, X amount of dollars, where they have a staff that they have to pay out a lot of money, but more patients come in, that becomes an acceptable loss because they're profiting off of those people being there to treat the patients. So that's an acceptable loss because it's going to yield more benefit for the company in the long run. So they don't think short term. Hey Mystic, I'm working on a tank already ready, have Warhorn and Vigors for an off heal. I'm a DK, but I'm going to have chains. Oh yeah, I use chains, definitely, Storm. I use them too. I'll switch them out if needed, but like there's certain encounters you don't need them, but a lot of the times chain comes in handy. And it all depends on the mob too. Some mobs are immune to chains, but yeah, I agree. I use chains. I like chains. So that's kind of the, and a lot of the YouTubers don't really understand acceptable losses. They're kind of going off base percentage and that. So I'm going to start off very simple in the champion system. Actually, let's start off with a skill first. Okay, I'm not getting too crazy. I'm not going to switch out anything. But right here, for example, funnel health, right? We see, I'll go over two effects. All right, we see funnel health at 9,479, right? And we see delimitate at 17. Okay, so almost 9.5, a little over 17. When we go into, and I'm on the PTS because it's expensive to do all this. So, for example here, Elfborn, I can reduce the critical rating, which is not going to affect the tooltip at all. Won't affect it. And I can pump more into the elemental expert. But let's watch what happens when I do that. Okay? So I'm just going to hit, just keep it simple, 1407. Okay, we're going to go back in. Now, I can drop my critical, right? So we know, actually, hold on, let me cancel that real quick. Let's get a base value. Started my sword healer and pretty excited to have Breath of Life type heal that also damages. Yeah, it's great, Mustang. I love the sword healer. Okay, there's an 8-1 base. 1407. 1407, 8-1 base. Okay. Okay, so we're going to drop this down. We're just going to keep it kind of marginal. Oh, I'll have to drop it down a little bit more than that. Try to get this up to about 14. Need one more point. Okay. So we drop that down. Okay. Loving my new Sork healer. Need to get orbs, but it's been badass. I'm telling you, man. I love Sorks. Okay, so let's take a look at the base. 8.2. So base is increased, right? Why did the base increase? Because we put an extra % into it. You guys see how that is? But look at crit. Crit drops significantly. So base is increased. Critical value has decreased. Now, depending on your build and how frequently you're trying to crit, you could be suffering a huge DPS loss because of that. And that's what I'm trying to tell people. When we take a look at that, that is going to drop. So that's a diminishing return in the essence that I'm spending too many points in Elemental Expert to yield less results from critical value to increase base. So it's not acceptable. So we can put that back at 13. Put that back at 12. Well, we get the 1. Now, here becomes the thing here too. I watch your brute tank build. Could Bone Pirate, Shoulder, and One Piece Troll King be good? And I like my tank. Actually, for a sustain tank, it would be. If you're looking for what they call like an old school sustain storm, that would be good. You'd have to block more frequently, but your sustain would be out the roof with Bone Pirate. Your mitigation would suffer a little bit, but your sustain would be great. So yeah, it's about how you want to play Storm, how your play style's fitted. So if you want a sustained tank, I say Bone Pirate be good. Can the tank use balls, or is that only for healers? Nope. Tanks use utilities like that every day. I see on my Templar tank, sometimes I'll throw in shards for utility for my DPS if I don't need utility. You got to keep in mind they have the same global cooldown. You know, it's pointless to have people running the same effect because they can't synergize. But if nobody else is running them, that utility comes in handy. So yeah. So this is an acceptable loss, for example, because I could put in more into my Thaumaturge, right? Low Milkshake. What add-on do you use to make your health, stamina, and magicka show up stack like that? Oh, I'm on my PC account, and I'm using FTC. Milkshake. It's a PC add-on. Oh, you're probably on PC, though, but it's FTC. So, Foundry Tactical Combat. Okay, so I have to pull in what we call an acceptable loss here, right? And let me go ahead and confirm this. Okay. For example, I got 21 points into Mastered Arms. Mastered Arms at this point, it's a loss value on ability DPS. But I'm going to take an acceptable loss to obtain the Butcher. Okay? So the acceptable loss here, now let's go back into our tooltip. And I'll show the delimitate. At 17.8, right? So if I hit the ability, it's dealing 2-9 on base, 5 on crit. 2-9, 5. Okay? I'll let that resolve. Okay, we're going to go back. Once my combat screen goes off. Okay. So, I could actually take this down, right, the Mastered Arms, considerably. We could go probably about around 17, and I could pump this up to a little around 17 as well. Probably 18. There we go. Ugh. We'll drop that down one more. So we get an equivalent value, but here's the problem. I'm going to lose the Butcher. I'm going to lose the 5% increase during finishing phase. Now that can be huge if that's what you're aiming for. But Let's commit. When we go back into the tooltip and we take a look at delimitate, now we've increased by a couple of hundred. Now we're looking at 5-1 instead of 5 on crit and 3 on base. So we're increasing our DPS and marginalizing the diminishing return, which is a good thing. So we can reduce the diminishing effect. We can reduce it significantly, but it all becomes about passives and build preference. So we can take the acceptable loss, right, to obtain the passive. Now let's also talk about critical diminishing returns and base value, right? So for example, my critical value currently is 58.2, right? So I don't think I have a precise Nernholm, but I don't think I have precise on that. And what Mundus am I using? Okay, I'm using the Lover. It'll work. All right, so let's go ahead. Oh, no problem. No problem, Milkshake. Let's say I go ahead and I hit with the funnel. I'm hit for 13.7. Now, right? 792 base. 7,992. And I want you guys to take a look at that base value. 7,992. $13.7. Okay. Now, gotta wait for combat to end. Tell me that's the thief. No, it's not. I'll grab the thief. Oh, right over here. Okay, I'm gonna take this up. PvP was a pain last night, but I got Warhorn Vigor. Now need to get Bone Shield and Mystic. I'm Argonian for my tank. It can take a hit. Oh yeah, I love Argonian. Argonian works both ways too, which is really nice. So you can use a lot of your self-sustaining heals along with the damage mitigation, and it actually pans out really nice. I love the fact for Argonian on that. Though it doesn't have the health regen, you pop the potions and that passive, yeah, it's pretty beastly. Okay, guys, so let's go back in here. So now I have the Thief Mundus. Now I'm looking at a 67, right, critical value, right? So now, where does the diminishing return lie? Because it's not within the amount hit, but it's going to be in the base value, in the damage output, because we're losing the penetrating value. See? 7, 2, and 12. So we start becoming at a loss because the diminishing return becomes about, at this build, penetrating value. That room just on PC. No, you can get this. This is in the Crown Store. This is the new housing for Clockwork City. So you can get this. Jackson. But yeah, so that's where we start losing. We don't have enough penetrating value to increase the damage. So the critical percentage, it becomes whether or not can we crit for more frequently with the Thief? Of course we can. Now here's the very important thing. Look at this. The critical value of the Thief with this specific configuration is 2,093, right? So when I go in to my 4th trait passive on War Maiden, let me get there, or right here, it's 804, right? So we get a critical value of 1 piece of 804. Now, if I'm looking at this from a perspective of saying, let's say switching out gear, I would need also stupid Nightblade snipe spam. Yeah, I was PvPing this weekend. There was definitely I wanted to do randoms, but I got a PvP. I got a couple of gold jewelry. Place, I want to say 71. Oh, well, you can definitely get it. I don't know if you can buy it, but like with gold, but it is in the Crown Store. This house, but definitely one of the things that I want to take a look at is how much critical value. So if let's say I'm running 2 sets and only one piece has critical value, right? I can use the Thief Mundus to offset the indifferent value. That becomes indifferent value based on gear parameter. So, but you got to remember that we see a 10-to-1 ratio between the mage and the apprentice. So let me go ahead, for example, and I'm going to go into housing and let me get this really quick. Okay. All right, so we're going to start off with the apprentice, which most people would tell you to do in a trial situations, including me. I would tell you that because we have the penetrating deductions that are being applied. In 4-mans, you're better off with the lover because you won't exceed the penetration most of the time. So let's go ahead and look at this. Okay, so the apprentice is giving us 324 increase to our spell damage. Now, mind you, we don't have the resource pool that the mage would give us. So we're looking at 324. Same thing. I'm going to hit with the funnel. 13-1, 7-6. 13-1, 7-6. 13-1, 7-6. Okay. All right. Come over here. Okay. Now, when we take a look at the character sheet, with this configuration, we're looking at another 2,768 Magicka. Seven, 6, 6, 8, 13, 1, 8. Let me do this. 13, 1, 8, 9, 7, 6, 6, 8. 13, 1, 8, 9. Oh, that's interesting. Look at this. So we're looking at the mage dealing more with this configuration. Now, this is the things that I like to find out. 13-1-4-5 with the apprentice currently. Nope. Cost a lot? It can, yeah, definitely. Okay. Look at this. Not much of a value difference. But let's go in skills. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let's do this. Let's get a true value. If you ever want to get a true value on a Mundus, unequip your gear. There'll be no reflection in the divine, just the Mundus itself, which is kind of handy. So I have no bonuses. Because it could be something as simple as a divine infused, recalibrated. But let's look at it. Oh, I think I'm going to need a weapon anyways. So hold on. So I do need to put one weapon on here, but I just don't want a bonus trait. Let's go precise. That way it doesn't reflect. Nernholm or anything. 6509 37. 65 37 378. Okay, that's base, and that's with the mage. 378. Huh. Looky there, looky there. 65. Okay. Don't mind me, guys. This is kind of what I do. This is why I find this interesting. So we're looking at 3779 with 6,500 even. Nine-point difference. You're not a spam user. Also roll out. Yeah. Don't spam. You are not a spam user. Also roll out. Yeah, you know what? I'm definitely working on stamina build, Storm, as far as PvPing. I notice, like, I play Magic a majority of the time, and I know, like, Stam, man, just simple movements without using an ability. Oh my gosh, it's so different. Like when I play on a Stam, I'm okay on a Stam, but everything's about like cost. But there we have this, guys, which is going on. So we're seeing a 9-point increase. Not much without any divine. And whether or not we can exceed the value becomes questionable to me. So I'm going to actually take a look at this. Because it looks like the mage value, since the increase has been significant enough to offset. So we will be going over, let me see. I want all divine in this scenario for testing. So let's go with where? Yeah, we'll go with Mother Sorrow. Morning, Rock. Will you be doing dailies today? I don't know. I wanted to kind of go over a lot of this today. So there was a couple of things that, you know, would get to go with you guys with, you know, a couple of the CP system, acceptable loss, and what you're going to be losing out on. And then we bump into this. Morning, Todd. So this is kind of interesting. And I usually try to test at least once to twice a week, and I work on different things to basically just keep going over things, because you never want to take anything as an absolute. Now, this could be a CP configuration as well, but I'm doubting it. I'm going to drop CP, do with and without. We'll drop the value loss. I want to see if I had the spinners, but I don't know if I do. Okay, regardless. Okay, let's go with, we'll go with the Valken. We'll keep the Valken head and shoulders. Those are all divine. We'll go with the Sorrow set. We're going to go all divine with this. Okay, I'm going to go with the Willpower for a base set. We'll put on pack. Nernholm on the main. Precise on the back. Alright. Now, currently, the Mundus we're looking at's the mage. Almost 3,000 reference. Magic builds are easy to kill. Just sneeze on a sorcerer and they die. They die as Stanblade sneeze and dead and not outcost. Real tanks use chains. Oh yeah, definitely. This is on the public test, yeah. But this actually is live now. This house, 762, 7,026. This is base value. Okay. Yep. It is. The mage is outperforming in this scenario. Now, I'm going to go into the champion points. That's with champion point allocation. Current configuration. We're going to drop all CP system and work static. Okay, I'll just hit the button, clear them all. Okay. No CP. Start off with the apprentice. 4-6 stack. 7-3. 4-6 and 7-3. Seven, 3, 4, 6. Now I won't know if this will affect every class the same. That's another thing. Always got to test this stuff. When you bump into something like this, you cannot assume that one class plays to every role the same. Four, 6, 2, 4. It's marginal. 7-3. 4-6-2-4. 4-6-2-4 with the mage. Okay. Yeah. With or without. Yeah, so what we're seeing here, in any scenario, we're seeing a slight increase with the mage versus the apprentice. Now, when I take a look at the value, we're looking at 351. Now, mind you, I have to get out my calculator and do very specifics to break down each point of reference. But 351. So let's round it to 350, right? Using it just as a guide. And this is going to be slightly under 3K. So let's round up to 3K. So it doesn't make sense to me because this would be a better value in the whole essence. Because we'd have a point of resources to gain and we're increasing damage. Now usually the apprentice has the offset because it has no resources and it increases the damage. So you're limiting the amount of resources to gain in higher damage output. But that's not occurring. That is not occurring on PTS. Now this is PTS. So but if the value is the same, the value, the law value would remain true if it's the same. You know, you'd have to break it down. It was a 10-to-1 ratio. For every 10 points in the apprentice was it equivalent to 1 point in the mage prior. The difference is negligible, really. Well, correct. But here's the difference, Rock. The mage would give you extra resources and increase. So the apprentice has no appeal at that point. You see what I'm saying? At this point, the apprentice would be nothing. But I mean, the lever to me is always important in 4-man because of penetrating value, because of the loss. But when we're talking trial scenario, this is significant. Yo, Zai, what's up? Dude, I don't know if you're watching this, Zai, but something's switched up on the math here, man. I haven't broken it down yet, but somehow we're looking at the 10-to-1 value is not relevant anymore. It's actually looking like we're looking at more of equivalent in value based on whole. So if we were looking at this as 3 and over, the apprentice is negligible by 50 points. I don't know why. If it was a true equivalent of 10-to-1, we're still looking at a negative of 50 deduction. You'd have to break down damage output. Damage type. Between elemental? Is that what you're saying, Zai? Between magic and... Because I'd definitely like to check that out. So let's go ahead. I'll put the staff on. Let's try Inferno. Weapon and spell damage is 10-to-1 for magic and stamina skills. Yeah, right. You're right. I mean, it was. Is the Thief Mundus better for a healer than the Shadow? Yeah. The only reason being, Robert, the Shadow you can take in champion points, basically. It's just simple. The Elfborn at 1208 is the equivalent to the Shadow Mundus. Math, everyone mortal enemy. Math's everyone's mortal enemy. But weapon and spell damage contributes more to your light and heavy attacks. This is true. That's a good point, Zai. So if your heavy attack then makes a difference versus raw skill. Yeah, so let's check this out here. So currently, I think I still have the Mage Mundus. So let's do a light attack. Okay. 2059 is base on the secondary. I'm using the top number as a consistent. 2059. Okay. And that's currently with the mage. Morning, Lewis. All right. We have an indifferent value on the light, regardless of Mundus. It's indifferent. Okay, so we have an indifferent value on light attacks, regardless of Mundus. That to me is crazy. I don't know if this is just on PTS. This could be a PTS thing, Zai. This could just be. I can't say that this is an actual live thing, because everything you say is right. That's what I know to be true. And this is weird because I'm on the PTS and I'm thinking to myself, why, man? Okay, let's go over skill on wall. 11.5 on second hits. Okay. We'll use that as point of reference. 13.74. Okay. Actually, let's do it an easier way. I'll make it easier. I always go static, guys. It's just what I do. Okay, 4-3 on top, 4-3-0-2 on crit. Okay. There goes the Falcon. 4-3, that's the apprentice. Okay, let's... Give it to me! And damage types not flat yes or no on the stone, if that helps. Yeah. You know, that becomes the question, doesn't it? I mean, it's marginal. I'm not saying it's significant. I don't usually stream this stuff, but I do this stuff all day. Love it. This is, yeah, and that's why I wanted to show kind of what we did and going over it. So 4291. You seeing this, Zai? This doesn't make sense, dude. At this point, this does not make sense. Because the reason, I mean, now I'm going to check this out on live. This doesn't make sense, though, Zai, because, okay, man, we see the value increase for resource pool for the mage. Now, that's the problem that a lot of people have been having with Magplar. Because Magplar, everybody's been trying to go apprentice, and they're losing in the back end with the Radiant, right? So, I run the Mage Mundus on Magplar to increase value because of the 10-to-1 law. Because the resource pool, I'd offset the base front, but now on PTS, this is PTS. I'm not saying this is live, but right, Zai, this doesn't make sense, dude. Because now, if I have more resource pool, now I take the lover in a 4-man anyways, regardless. But in a trial scenario, if I'm having to pick out the secondary because of the deducted values, now the mage is going to be productive based on resource pool and a slight increase to damage. Some people assume you don't test or know unless they are watching you do it, right? That's the thing that I'm glad you guys are here. And let's see, question. Does this Sergeant Gear 5-piece add 1634 to heavy attacks? My friend Uology is currently testing a couple of those different sets. Sergeant will add to the heavy attack, right? So it adds to a heavy attack, which is really good for heavy attack builds. But the question of it is, what are you willing to sacrifice to put in for a heavy attack? Depends on your weave rotation. If you're more dependent on weave rotation, sure, I guess it's productive in that essence. If you're running more dot end rotation, like let's say Stam DK, for example. Stam DK, we can offset a difference of loss because we're at more heavy end rotation depending on specification and personal preference. But you take the loss in damage in your abilities to do so. So, I mean, would you still hit a value over? Yeah, that's all it matters. You know, like Zai will tell you that. Zai will tell you it depends on your preference and your play style, and as long as you're hitting those numbers and understanding what you're losing for your gain. And that's why I'm kind of like that we're going over this. Try with the lover. Oh yeah, well that's the thing, Rock. I know the lover's going to hit more, but I can do that because the lover's the issue's penetrating value. And you're right. 4291 without the lover. Hold on. Let me get my lover, Mundus. I'm a lover. It's basically like a built-in Maelstrom Destro staff bonus for your melee. Right. It's exactly what it is. A nice reference, though. I love that, Zai. That actually was a really good point there. I like how you put it. Okay. We're losing. We've exceeded the value. 2672. Let me get the... Actually, let's go back. 4343. That's with the lover, right? Nope. Wasn't my mistake. I hit the thief. Dar mistake. What y'all doing? Dar. Mistake. Oh, there it is. So yeah. Here's the big deal here. And this is what I have to now go on live. Oh my god. Now, my target dummy is on my PS4 and not my PC. I don't chase fluff, and usually I don't care even if I get fluff. I have fluff on my PC because I played PC longer. So I have the house, I have the target dummies, I got all that stuff. So I can go on there and check it out on my PS4. But the problem of it is now here's the thing too on metrics. I have my metrics up here as you guys can see, and I like FTC for the purpose of fluctuating values and uptime. As far as keeping an accuracy, you have to understand your encounter is going to cause the indifference or the fluctuated value on encounter. So basically, you're trying to maintain at one point, but depending on how many mechanics are firing is when you see a fluctuation of loss. But so long as you're pushing up between, like say, the best thing, do a test, if you are on PC, do a test with limited to no mechanics, and you'll almost have an ideal situation of a static value with minimal mechanics. Now, once your mechanics, but the thing about it is, that's what's nice about FTC. You'll see the static value, and once again, I reference static because human error is going to be a factor in rotation, right? How you're actually rotating throughout your abilities, timing, so on and so forth. Also, but static will keep true, and that's why I always go static. I hit 3 mil DPS with 1 light attack on the combat metrics. Yeah, it does have a couple little hiccups. It can happen. And the guy said there were a few minor hiccups. I never bank off of it, but I like to reference the static values because you get to see, like, okay, if I'm hitting here, you'll see 6.6 per hit up here, right, on my on my thing. 7715. See, it keeps true, but it'll record it, right? Now looking up here, you guys see something? See what happened? This didn't keep true, right? So combat metrics at this point isn't keeping true with FTC, and that's what Zai's referencing. You know, is accuracy, right? Sometimes there's not a very accurate description of what's going on, right? That happens. Well, it does. So don't bank on anything. But uptime is pretty good. It kind of gives you an idea when you're playing around with an uptime. But static is the way to go. I'm always going to reference the target skeleton's damage above its head per ability. And I want to go across the board because then I can adjust the build specifications. 1 mil, what, for gold? Yeah, I'm on PTS though, Jackson. I don't get to keep it. I wish that, you know, Zai, you think Zoss will let me transfer this to my real account? You know, we'll do a wire transfer. Gina, can we get a hookup here? She ain't gonna do it. 3 mil. Yeah. Well, and that's what he's saying, Jackson. There's inconsistencies. You know, But if you guys aren't subbed to Zai, please make sure you do that. Cyanide's my dude. That's my European brother. Because he does everything the same way I do it. We go through. It's identical. Watching him test when he did testing in the past was scary because it's exactly kind of the same configurations I do. But here's my question, Zai. Now listen, man. At this point, if we're in trial scenario, now imagine this. We're in trial scenario. We're not using the lever because penetration, we're looking at a deducted value, right? What does the apprentice or the warrior, for that matter, going to give us, right, that the mage isn't? Like, sure, let's ask him. Yeah. That becomes my question. I mean, it's minimal. But if this stays true on live, which I can't say it is, I can't, then there's something off with the 10-to-1 value. The 10-to-1 value no longer applies. Actually, we're looking at a deduction of value in the apprentice and in the warrior, if that's the case. If it would be the case. And that doesn't make sense. Also, testing stones. People need to be sure skeletons always have the same resistance to test. Right. And that's the kind of thing I want to take a look at too. Yeah, man, that's so crazy. That's nuts. It doesn't make sense to me, man. 10 will be at a 0. Yes. Right. If we're in a trial scenario and we're looking at a full deduction, and I've done right before you got here, Zai, I did it without gear. With champion points, gear. I did gear champion, no gear champion, gear, no champ, and I don't think I've done it. And I did it without gear, no champ, and it's still the same, man. You know, that's what's crazy to me, man. Sometimes I suspect some of the 76,000 DPS parses on YouTube of editing of either the video or the CMX add-on. We have to weave a lot rather than spam skills so the heavily affected damage. Right. But it's also going to give the enchant proc too for spell damage. And that's kind of where I'm kind of sitting at here. Right, Zai? Because if this have increase on it, if this had increase, which right now I have a restore, but if I had the increased value, which is like 300 and something, well, let's just enchant it. Okay. Okay. This is why I'm thinking this. Okay. Infuse Redux is reducing the effect. Now, we had always increased with Infuse to maximize the effect of increased value by 452. Right, for 5 seconds. Right. So basically, if I just use an ability and then hit up light, well, it's going to make me be a liar. We see the difference. Okay. Something might be bugged. Infuse light spam with proc benefits a lot from higher spell damage. Right. And that's why I'm kind of, you know, get the proc set up and, you know, for the increase. So prior to proc, it's like at 1006 spell at the moment. There's a 2-1. See it? Okay. Light attack with the apprentice, then light attack without high percentage difference. So take the apprentice off. Do you just want me to drop it? Drop it? Oh, I don't have the apprentice on anyways. I got the lover. So, you want me to try it with the apprentice eye? You need to test static. Remove all yeah. Good point. We go static. I got to keep the weapons, though. Falcon procced it. 1 second. Always static. I agree. I live by the static law. Because that's what gives us, you know, our values. Prior to gear, prior to any application. Oh. Okay. Let's get naked. No. Let's get... Hey, I'm telling Zai to go ahead and streak a dungeon with his sorcerer. He's got this fan. Ignore lover. It's always a debuff anyways. Right. So let's go with the apprentice. Okay, I'm going to do a light. And I'm going to do a follow-up heavy. Or I mean light and a follow-up ability. Okay. So 1004 is our light attack. Followed up. 15. $18 because proc. So 15. $1,004. I'm always going to do light. If you do a medium or a fully charged, your value will be different. Anyway, so Zai's got this person who comes in, and it's actually quite entertaining. I love a lot of your viewers, Zai, and some of them are just so good. I love popping in Zionite's streams. His viewers make his channel what it is on top of what Zai already offers. So you get entertainment on both aspects. You're going to get it on Zai's end regardless, and then you just being in the chat room, I'm telling you guys, it's entertaining, to say the least. So anyways, so hey, I know a guild on PCNA that runs naked normal trials. Okay, so let's do the light attack again. Yeah, there you're right, Zai. And there you're right. Highest light. Nope, right there you're right, dude. But here's the thing. Okay. So we're looking at the light attack is valued at a difference between the Munduses for sure. But here's the thing. Is the abilities, why are the abilities scaling higher when it never did before? Now you're saying it's the damage type is now affected? Because that to me is crazy. If that's the case. I'm not saying you're saying that. I don't know. Fun as all get out. Man. I'm running naked. I'm getting naked. Naked normal. Naked normals. Yeah. That's what I was telling him to do. Would be awesome. And then put streak on the sorcerer. Run his easy sork build naked, and then put streak on a back bar or something. Just streak the dungeon. Both stones affect different types of damage. So, are we talking about ability types or types as far as weapon, like staff, and ability? It's about balancing your rotation to which will benefit you more. Yeah, and that's the way the game's always designed, right? We know that. Big pull or hard-hitting skills. Right. But that's the thing. That's what I'm not getting, is why we see a small value difference when there should be a little bit more, in my opinion. Because currently, with the mage, that's what's nuts to me. Even naked. 4-2, 4-9 with the mage. Now this is test. I know it is. And then if I go with the apprentice... What's up, Snoop? Snoop! I seen you and Todd in PvP. Did you? Was that you? That we kept battling back and forth. Snoop feed was your character. Okay, now watch the Zai. Look at this. Look at the 4-2-4-1 on a crit, 2-6-5 on a base. 2-6-5-1 on base with the apprentice. Now we have a larger pool to resort from. And now I can't say this is accurate on live. I don't know. This is... Look! It's like a 4-point increase on the mage. That doesn't make sense. It's like... So, the apprentice to me is now like, okay, you're right. It does increase the light attacks. Like, the light attacks are increased by the apprentice now. So, if I want more on a light attack, it seems like I'm getting more on the apprentice. Right? On my weaves. But I'm getting more on my abilities and a pull from the mage. I mean, apprentice most like yeah, right. That's what you meant. Right. And I figured that's where you were going. Wasn't always the case. I mean, looking at a small difference, but the light attacks is significant for cancellation. So the apprentice has more between the rotation and the weave rotation, ability rotation. You're going to get more from the apprentice. So I could see the offset of difference that the devs went since they increased the value of the light attack. But it's crazy. Crazy, man. Crazy, man. Nuts. But yeah, Todd and Mystic. Right. Dude, I don't know, man. It was crazy, Snoop. Okay, guys. So, me and one of my, dudes got into it this weekend. I don't PvP in groups. Very small groups, if I do. Like 1 or 2 people. I got to PvP with Todd and his son a couple of times. Most of the time, I'm a solo PvPer. What's that, Snoop? What's the question? I'll let you type out. Most of the time, I'm a solo PvPer. And currently, I'm ranked 58 as a solo player. But there are better PvPers out there, and all of a sudden, I'm going to leave this dude's name out of it, but we got into it, and we're actually, like, a little bit of drama going on in Cyrodiil chat, and all of a sudden, the big boys show up, and I'm talking the top dogs in PvP, and all of a sudden, I'm like, here's the PvPers, and I'm like, they know who I am. Well, who are you? And I'm not even as good as these dudes. These dudes are the dogs, the top, the known players. And it's funny because when people want to say something, you got AP farmers, on top end, don't know tactics, and it's costing our faction. Sucks. The highest DPS I ever pulled on a target skeleton was 25k self-buffed on my Stam Sork. Is that any good? But overall, it also depends DPS-wise on your crit, right? Because you could crit more often and not need the damage increase because the crit does not work. Lots of fun testing, right? Yeah, everything. Yeah, right. That's 100%, man. And no, you're not too low, Snoop. And here's the thing: the reason you're not too low is that's a rotation thing, Snoop. It's just that's all it is. I always tell people, don't get fixated. Please do not get fixated on target skeletons for like what you're doing. If you notice, like Outcast, he's got timing down throughout his rotation. Between his light attacks, heavy attacks, and same thing with Zai. You'll see Zai on each build, his rotation. He tries to keep a similar setup, so his muscle memorization's there, right? So you'll see the muscle memorizations. They have configurations that kind of every class is going to be slightly different, but it's beneficial to their muscle memorization. Once your muscle memorization gets better, your parses become they're not parses, they're tests, but your rotation gets more fluent. So long as the test, like in a trial, usually if people are pushing about 100 and something K between 8 players, you're good. You won't hit enrage. So, I mean, you might have to do a mechanic or two. But to get enrage timer, you would have to your group would really have to be off, hitting 1 or 2 abilities for enrage timers. How are players pulling 30K plus? I've seen Zai pull 45. Right. His muscle memorization, Snoop. That's what we're going back to. When you see, like, you could put Zai's build together. DPS, 12K DPS is where it's at. I know, right? If I'm on a single target, I'll make mess ups. I got 20 tunes. I mainly play healer and healer. So, my DPS rotation kind of struggles sometimes. But on my AoE rotation, I'm hitting 70, 76, 80Ks, without flinching, 12K DPS, So, but yeah, you'll even see Outcast on single targets. He'll average between 19 20 on single with mechanics. Those are crazy mechanics, though, and that's impressive. Like if he's walking around flying everywhere and still pulling 1920s, you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. You're like, holy shit. I'm thinking, holy shit. Like if he's still maintaining, above 20 and still running around crazy. So, yeah, that's still really good. And that's what I'm saying. It's all about rotation recovery, as far as rotation recovery. And if you maintain that, and like I said, Zai has, if you notice when he's like hitting his abilities, his timing's fluent. So like you could copy one of Zai's builds. Let's say you use Easy Sork. And it's easy, and that's why I named it that way, right? He's taken all of the things to make it as fluid for players as possible, right? And still be really huge damage pusher. And I think that's why the build is so good, because he knew to anticipate it. And but when you see his rotation, it's down, right? He's got it so down that he might get 44,000 on a single. That's practice, Snoop. Yep, I have practice and created rotations for countless hours. I agree. You could copy the Easy Sork build, right? Put it in play, and you still might not get what he's getting. Is that to say you messed up somewhere? Nope. It's not even a reflection of the build at that point. At that point, it's just your rotation. It's about practice. That's all it's about. And when I put builds together, what I do is something like this configuration. And I go ahead and go everything static across the board and adjust Munduses and things like that to get determining values and debuffs and things like that. DK can hold DPS during mechanics due to a lot. Right. Yeah. And that's the thing, though, Zai, and that's what I was explaining to my viewers with a couple of my Mag DK build. People are like, Stam DK is dealing this much damage, and only Mags are only pushing that much. Well, I'm like, well, why are you approaching Mag DK any different than you're approaching Stam? Because if you approach it in the same aspect, you will get the same results. You'll get a higher value for the Mag DK. So I think sometimes people lose that in transition. right? What is like stam sorks, for example. They're like, oh, stam sorks suffer of this, but they're good at that. No different in that aspect than the regular sork. You have limited bar space because of your abilities that have to remain on bar to get those benefits, right? It stays true to that essence. The question of it is how you approach the class in its passives, in its initial design. Don't deviate from that. When you don't deviate from that, you can get really great results on every end of its role, whether it's healing, tanking, DPSing, or stam to mag. I mean, there are going to be some differences as far as finishers, like mag. The Fury has that finishing proc, where stam doesn't. The stam sork doesn't have that nice ability to finish out like that. But if you take stam sork with a bow two-hander and you ran without the monster set, I like the Storm Fist. But let's say you wanted to do it that way and get the Executioner, you can literally put an AoE rotation like a Stam DK and then have the same kind of results with the finishing phase. You could. Once again, it's preference. It's all preference. Everything is about your preference in this game. There is no BIS and anything else. And once again, guys, we got to take a look at the critical values too. And like I said, I could switch out I can amp up my crit value to an ungodly amount, right? I could get ridiculous with critical value if I wanted to. I could literally go insane with crit value. Problem of this is we're going to lose on base damage. It's always going to be that way, right? It's going to give us reduced base damage with a higher crit. And if you think it's justifiable, at the end, you might end up surprising yourself, because base value is also percentage to your critical damage output as well. Oh, there we go. So let's say right now my crit's at 45. I'd say, oh, I'm going to take the Thief. My crit's pretty friggin' low. But then after agreed, apart from Nightblade, generally executes on stamina are passives with their own skills. Right. It's exactly the way it is. And it's like people forget to take a look at the passive indication. They're fixated on all of the numbers, the upfront numbers, not taking into consideration the passive is going to affect when you're in party. So I could test a lot of things on here as an individual without innate passives taking effect. But knowing when I'm in a party that innate passives are going to be applied, that speaks a whole different ball game that you're only going to experience in group scenarios. But you have to take in consideration the percentage of value that's going to be applied to your character. So you can go ahead and apply those or mock those in abilities that you would not have otherwise, at least to give you a general idea. You need to think of what a skill does and how often you hit the button to activate it. Right. Place skills you use most often on buttons you easily access. Right. And that's one thing I like, and is that kind of true the way you do it, Zai? Because I see that even all your builds can be different, but I see you usually keep like a similar setup so your muscle memorization looks the same. I do the same thing. I do it that way. And I've noticed, like, I think you do it that way too. I think we all do, in a way. When we're switching out characters, there's certain placements we put something because we know our muscle memorization, right? And that's what made it Warden hard. Like when people was playing the Warden, their muscle memorization got all whacked out because in their timing. And they were like, Warden DPS sucks. And I'm like, nah, just the rotation's a lot different. Devs are pretty slick about it, actually. They're like, okay, well, muscle memorize this. Psh, and then throws in a delayed effect that'll screw up your whole rotation. It's pretty funny. But it's badass, man. So, okay, so now my critical value is at 56.1. Now, keep in mind, I don't have champion points allocated. But I could go ahead and allocate those really quick. Once again, Elfborn, 1208. That's usually correct, rock and roll. I have seen so many people spam Venom Claw. Oh, my God. Oh, that would be hilarious. Yes, basically, I have a similar loadout on purpose. I see that. It's actually pretty cool because I do it too. I do the same thing. I'm just going to get this so I can get my critical value up. We'll I always put a little bit into the erosion. We'll go about 13. All right. We should be good. Yeah. Now look, 68. Let's go over this. Let's talk about this. Okay, 68, right? My buff type tends to always be on same button. Double tap skill, volley, liquid lightning, always on the same button. Yes, I double tap. I don't have insta cast. Right. Right. You know, dude, I find, hey fingers, what's up, dude? You know what I find out, Zai? I always sometimes when the cast is in deliverance, I double tap on my instance and thus lose out on my back end duration on like a wall or something like that. And I will do it from time to time where it gets the double tap when I should have been single tap throughout my rotation, because then I just lost out on my light or heavy attack. And I was like, to me, that slip up is really costly. Like, I know, like, to me, that's a really costly, common slip up, I think. You know, on double taps, if you're not paying attention to duration, and that'll screw up my whole light and heavy attack. It sucks. It's like, oh shit. Healer's different, guys. Well, I mainly play healer. Healer, I got to play to what I'm seeing in the field. What my hot is, right? Between my instance and depending on each healer. And what needs to be applied at what time. And keeping in mind the 20-second rotation through orbs or shards. So I got to keep in mind I got a 20-second CD effect. I have to try to pay attention to who's grabbing, who isn't. I don't want to spam because it's costly. So I need to go ahead and do all of this in a timely manner to keep effective heals. And that's what I mainly do. Most of you guys know that. At DPS is a lot different. DPS has a lot of, constant effects that are being applied. Hence why I have a respect for Outcast, because even during crazy mechanics, this man somehow doesn't miss a rotation. And it's like, holy shit, his rotation recovery is, you can tell he does it a lot. That's what I'm saying. You can tell. I like to have the double tap, but it takes some serious practice. Dude, it does, man. Like, I make that mistake. Category skills as heal, spammable, execute, defense. Then always try to piece them in the same place on the same bar on every bar. Then your muscle memory will improve. Right, that's what we all do. I timed the circle, getting smaller swap channels. The swap is definitely a time thing. And I agree with that. When you do the swap, you're looking at about a half second, a 0.5 second switch with another point something second on your hit, depending if you're popping your potion and whatever. So everything is about like your timing. It's like 0.2 or 0.5, 0.1, one full, on swap. If your delay is anywhere near, keep in mind too, a heavy attack rotation. Being able to throw in a heavy at the timing that you need it the most. That's I think the thing that a lot of people struggle with, and everybody struggles with that. It's timing heavy. Timing heavy is not easy. It's just not easy. Even if you're good, you can mess up on a heavy rotation, right? But it's a necessity. It just is. So here's the deal, guys. Like, I can crit consistently for 914 every day. But I'm looking at 5-3 base, right? Look at that. 9-1. Becomes a question. Do I want to crit for 914 60% of the time? Or would I want to go ahead, take a drop in critical value, right? So it's at 64. And now I'm at, well, I was 68. Now I'm at 63. So I was at 68. Now I'm at 63. Now I'm dealing more in critical damage, right? That's where the diminishing return lies, right? In crit. Diminishing returns is layered throughout this game. The devs are sadistic people that are wrapped in math heaven. It's nerd's paradise at Zos. I want to go visit it sometime just to see the numbers. That's all I want. But it's a, it's a numbers game. It is definitely a numbers game. Here's a tip, by the way, whips. Double tap the button and you can time your next light attack easier. The second hit is perfect time spent for the weave to work. Now, are you talking about lash or whips? Because I just want to be for the record what morph it is. Because each one will be slightly different on the morph because of the turnout. You can hold the left mouse button down, tap, and still will fire as soon as the heavy attack is fully charged. Look at this, look at this dude. Dude, I don't have a sanctuary tank, dude. I have a PvP. I don't have a PvE sanctuary build. Think it's somebody else there, scrub. Hey, anytime, Kane. Anytime you want that 1v1, let me know, man. Any class, anytime. I like how you're avoiding it. Where are you at? You want to do this now? I can get on my PS. What's up? You want to talk to me? I'll televise it too. No? No comment? Yeah. Didn't think so there, bud. Keep farming, dude. Same. Dude, anytime. Anytime. I told you. Anytime. It's on. And I'm not the person, let me explain something, guys. I honestly don't think most of the time dueling is a reflection of a person's skill. I'll get that straight here. Josh, let's see it. I want to do it. I want to. Dude. No, I'm not mad, dude. I think you are. And I think you talk too much crap about stuff you don't know. Okay, guys, now here. This player right here who's spamming me used to try to roll with me. And he did a couple times. Yeah, sure, Kane. Whatever. You know what you're talking about. But anyways, so this dude right here. Let's talk about this dude. He went D-low. Like a noob. Right? When he was rolling with us in PvP, we have always told this dude, don't do scrub stuff. Outer keeps are not priority. Outer keeps are not priority because when you chase D-low prior to having Surgeon, you give up keeps to obtain it. Right? You take yourself out of the equation. The maintain for, you're not worth sacrificing BRK to get choked, put it back in your chokehold for D-low. It's not worth it. We have told this to this player. We don't anticipate the other players to understand it. But when you roll with us, that's the number one rule. You don't go back keeps, right? This player who's rolled with us went D-Lo with a bunch of AP farmers and then all of a sudden cost us 3 keeps for 1 keep. Cost us 3 keeps for 1 keep. And I called it how it is. He's a dumb fuck. At least I say it. Mystic. Nah, yeah. He's trying to be a YouTuber. He's started his own little thing and whatever. And he hates because I'll say it to his face. And then I call him out because then he's saying scrub. And I'm like, okay, any class, any class, anytime, 1v1. Anytime, man. And I don't think I'm top end dog. You know, we lose, and I don't think it's a contest of whatever. That's why I said any class, anytime, on whatever. He gets to select. He gets to pick. And I'll still beat his ass hands down every time. Because he doesn't understand the classes as well as he thinks he does. And I'm not that good of a PvPer. Elusive and them got on last night, and they all know me. Dude. It's, what, 9 in the morning, and you've been at it for 2 days? Shut up, Kane. Shut up, dude. You gave up 3, and everybody called you guys out for it, too, on chat. It was hilarious. I actually got it recorded. If he ever wants me to post it, I will. Yeah, I'll actually just block him. He's just trolling. Yeah, anyways, you know, the thing about it is, it's not worth it. But anyways, let's get back to it. At the end of the day, guys, you want to go static. You want to test these things. And this is why I test it. And I think Zai would agree with me on this. That if you want to try to test everything as much as possible and frequently, things will change, right? And that's the whole thing. Like when I was on the PTS, and we went over this, I was like, the willpower increase value is just significant. I'm like, I wonder if it'll be like 3-piece willpower or 3-piece moon dancer. Everybody's like, no, Mystic. No. That's not going to happen. That is definitely not going to ever happen, Mystic. And I'm like, why? And they're like, Minor Slayer. And I'm like, no, I don't. I think you guys are wrong there. And they're like, oh, no. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So I'm looking at 972, right? And I did it. I did it like whatever, naked and stuff. And I was like, what the hell? Come on. And I like own this. Okay. Oh, looky there. Now that's interesting too. Oh, I know why. Penetrating value is not the... What's scarier, the trolls, the parents that did, or... Yeah... Okay, there's 10. Now we'll switch it out. Ten, 9, 9, 3. Now look, I have 1 recovery and 1 with spell damage. Same thing with the Moon Dancer. These are recovery and 1 spell damage. See? See? Slightly over. Penetrating value makes a difference. But once again, I'm not saying that Moon Dancers is bad. I'm saying everything when it's applied will over exceed the willpower. But willpower base value is significant. And that's one thing I noticed. And I was like, well, I think it'll do it more on the base value. And people were just kind of questioning that. And I was like, look, man, numbers are different for percentage and base. You know, so I'm going to go static and then we'll increase the buff ratio and see what it'll pull. You know, man, I just don't understand the mentality of trolls. Well, he wasn't a troll initially. We ended up PvPing, and and I keep telling the people who want to roll with me, they're like, oh, as soon as they mention Delo, I'm like, I don't do scrub stuff. I used to play chess, you know, and one of the main rules of chess is anticipating what your opponent's going to do at all times, and using that to your advantage and to manipulate the board. And AD does that because once they take in one keep, they go ahead and force a Zerg in one direction. By doing so, then they can backdoor the other pieces, then cause panic among you. And thus you're giving up a key piece, and then next thing you know, you're gated. And they do it well. They have very good players who understand strategy over there. And the problem of it is the outer keeps, not saying they're irrelevant, is a ploy to sacrifice your bitch, your queen. So you're basically they're taking your rook, so you'll sacrifice, so they'll corner your rook, so you don't want to sacrifice it. So they're like, we got your rook cornered. And you're like, no, I don't want to lose my rook. So you go ahead and you try to save your rook, and you get it saved, right? Next thing you know, guess what you just gave up? You gave up the queen. You gave up the queen for the rook. And to me, that's not worth it. You know, the queen can move in any direction on the board. So for a rook, that's only going to get played towards endgame. That's what I'm saying. And dude didn't understand it. He didn't get it. We kicked him. We was like, dude, whatever. And I said it. He's being a scrub player. You know, that's scrub-ass tactics. And then next thing you know, he got all butthurt about it. Real what you sow and all, right. Yeah. You know, the thing about it is, and to me, it is what it is. I mean, I rolled with dude a couple of times. He put our groups in a couple of compromised positions because he thinks he knows so much. And to me, I don't like that mentality. It's like we discuss things, like me and my crew. And I'm like this, testing, Zai coming in, and we're talking. That, and you guys talking, and let's do this. Let's test. Let's figure it out. Let's do it together. That's how I want to do it. I don't think I know it all, but at the same time, I don't want somebody to perceive, like, if we're trying to help you understand something, don't blow it off and then ignore it and go do it. And then all of a sudden, when we start losing something because of your, stubbornness, I don't want to be with you, man. I want to hang out with you. I don't. Because you're too stubborn. I'm an asshole. I admit that. But I'm not stubborn, there's a difference. Somebody's like, are you a stubborn asshole? And I'm like, no, I'm an asshole. Just plain asshole. Stubborn has nothing to do with it. I'll compromise for anybody. And I do that with my healers. Like, I have Ellie Drain. Do I need Ellie Drain? No. But do I have it? Yes, because I'm willing to compromise. I'm just willing to compromise for the group and for the people, man. And you got to do that in life. You sometimes got to swallow it, suck it up, and do it because that's what people want you to do. You might not agree with it. It's not about agreeing with it. At the end of the day, it's about like, hey, can I get it done? But yeah, guys. So diminishing returns. Diminishing returns are affected in CP, critical values, base values, gear selection, what you're needing, and how you offset. If I have a crit set like this, and I go with some other type of set, I may need the Thief Mundus, right? Same thing applies, what I'm doing with resource management, food, eating, everything. It's all about specifications. And that's why I'm always telling people there's no best in slot. You got to look at indifferent value, right? What's your indifferent value? What are you gaining? And what are you going to lose? If you want high crit chance, you can have it, but you got to understand there's a diminishing return, right? On how much your damage is going to yield. Excuse me. So the higher the crit, the less base goes down. So we have a diminishing effect. Placement. Right there. Poof. It's locked in between, X and Y. How detailed you want it is up to you. How you want to, build. Some people don't like crit. I know a player who does not have a crit build. It's all base damage build. He doesn't even go. And I do that in PvP a lot because I know people wear impen. So a lot of my builds, and I know crit procs don't crit. So I don't spec crit. It's pointless for me. Because if I'm wearing proc sets, I don't need crits. I need base value. And those are acceptable losses. Because I'm going to lose on a damaging effects crit capability to increase, that. Oh, nice, Mystics. Up to 1.1k subs. Thanks, Lewis. That's all due to you guys. You guys are my community. It works out great. I love it. But, yeah, guys. So, once again, keep in mind, proc sets don't crit. So, critical value means nothing to me at that point. I would rather take an acceptable loss, sacrificing critical value, for its proc increase to scale it higher. Hence what I'm doing most of the time. So I'll drop off the Elfborn, I'll increase the Master at Arms, increase the base value of the proc. And by doing so, then I get a higher base value on my abilities as well. So that's where you need to look. It's very just minor little things. That's why I tell people, if you keep those principles in line, no matter how you build or how you specify, you'll be fine. You will be more than fine. You'll be okay. I promise you. Don't worry about it. Don't get caught up in the whole meta and BIS thing. Don't do that. Don't do that, because we see fluctuations every time. I'm on PTS, right? Right now, I'm on the PTS. If I go live and there's some discrepancy, I could be yelling at myself, being like, well, that didn't happen on PTS. But it doesn't matter. It's on PTS. Glass Cannon PvPers don't use impen. Right. It's a prime example. They're Glass Cannon PvPers. All they do is get the crit, stack up the thing, and say, fuck it, y'all take the damage. That's why they stack shields. They put their survivability in their abilities versus their gear. So, but then all of a sudden a shield drops, they lose resources, they go down like you blow on them. Once their shields are down and you blow on them, they'll die. But they use those shields. Those shields are life and death for them every day of the week. And to me, I think it's good, but to me, I don't like that type of play style. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to cut this. I'm going to end it. I will be out tomorrow. I'll actually do dailies tomorrow. So I do want to thank everybody for watching. If anybody has any questions, and I'm sorry about the troll and the whole drama thing, getting involved. But you know what? I do live streaming. It will happen. It will. And I'm fine with that, man. It's real life. But I do want to thank everybody for watching. And once again and always, thank you. And have a nice day.